Hi, Dawn Lewis here, taking over the Kindred Stamps channel as part of my role as video design team member, and I am bringing you this very cool spinner card. It doesn't require any fancy dies, but it does require a 6x6 base, which you get from cutting a 12x12 piece of cardstock in half, folding that, bam, 6x6 card base. Too easy. Now the next thing I need is a mat, and I'm cutting one 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. We're going to all over custom stamp this particular piece using this circle and distress oxide ink. So I'll list all of the colors as I use them on the screen, and we're going to take this circle stamp and flip it. So the piece you would normally do is on the block, and we're going to stamp with the back of it. Now we need to go all around the edges, specifically the corners, but because I'm putting a piece over the top of this, we don't need to fill the whole thing. So we're going to save a little bit of time. And I'm going to start with Salty Ocean. So you'll find that when you ink up the back of a stamp, a solid stamp like this, it looks like it's beading. But when you actually put it down and just give it maybe 3 seconds-ish, it spreads out and it fills the whole area and it stamps gloriously. I've also used cracked pistachio, seedless preserves. Now I'm using candied apple, and I'm just stamping quite randomly, knowing that I need to fit 5 colors in all around here, and I will go back and fill in some empty spots later on. But now I've flipped the stamp back over, and I'm going to stamp that black circle over the top of each color using Ranger Archival Jet Black ink, and I've gone all the way around, and it surprisingly didn't take as long as I thought. If you go methodically, you won't miss one. So I've got the entire set up here. I've pre-cut everything. I've got my stamped base, and here are the spinner pieces. So we've got a circle that's 5 1/4 inches wide, and the circle in the center is 1 1/2 inches. I actually used a Creative Memories cutting system for this, but you could use dies, any kind of circle cutter you've got. I also have 2 white cardstock 4-inch circles with 1 1/2 in the center, and my sentiment, which I printed from the computer, I cut around the 2-inch mark. Now you could do different measurements. As long as the middle holes are all the same, you're good to go. I did have some smudges on my background, but my blue circle actually covers those, so I don't need to worry about them. If you do have smudges, you could use a Tombow mono sand eraser with a light hand to just, no one will ever know they're there. I have some high tack foam tape. I really wanted this to stick good because I have a feeling this card is going to get a workout. You do need to remove the paper backing from both sides to make this work, and I found that working counterclockwise was the best for me. I'm putting it so close to the inside edge of that blue circle, but not quite touching. It does need a double layer in order to spin really well, and of course again you got to take off that paper to make it work. So I'm just doubling the layer up all the way around, and there was a little gap in my bottom layer, so I made sure to cover that with the second, and then I had a little left over, so I just shorted up in the middle. And now that my guide is not needed, on with one circle and the second white circle, and these allow that top blue disc to spin with ease. It makes it so easy. We're going to throw that blue circle back on, and that's our spinner. So there's no complicated dies you need for this. I do, however, want to make sure that it's not going to stick to any stray adhesive on the outside. So I went round with a powder tool, and I'm popping my sentiment on top. It's not super hard duty put on there, and then I can go around again and really get stuck in with the anti-static powder tool, and you can see it slides really well. Now I've got all of my little characters here from the set called All the Feels, and if you want to see how I colored those, I will link to a coloring video that's over on my channel, and each of them these were so fun to color. So I'm adding some Tombow liquid glue just to the bottom, not the very tops of their heads, and their little feet are not quite touching the foam in the center because I didn't want them to get stuck on it. So I'm essentially, when I put in, touching it to the foam and then just pulling it back a teeny tiny fraction. So we've got all the feels, and look at this, we've got all the feels, and look at all those feelings on our background. Now I did think afterwards that the sentiment was a little bland. This card has so much color, so I chose the same Distress Oxide inks, and I've gone around with a mini blending tool and just added some more of the color on, and this is what it needed. This is the lift. So now I've got my card right way up. I'm adding on the sentiment, and oh my goodness, this card is the colors make me so happy. So I'm going to use Tombow Mono Glue to put this onto my card base as well, just so I can give it that little wriggle around to make sure it's really centered. And I'm so happy with this card, and I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you are loving this All the Feels stamp set, you can check it out. I'll link to it below, and look at that spinner. You can definitely do this. You could also put an arrow or the little word spin me on there so the recipient knows. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this project, and I hope you will give it a go. I also hope you have a very crafty day, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.